let's talk about the first things first. The 49ers just lost to the Vikings. Let's talk about how atrocious this defense was all game long. All game long. The Vikings came in early. They were able to run the ball. The second half, they did a good job stopping the run. The Vikings, without Addison, without Jefferson, for a good drive or two, was still able to move the ball. I don't know what's going on, man. What is the issue with this defense, Sunil?
I mean, it's a defense that's predicated on a pass rush, and there is none. And it's something that I know PFF has these pressures, and the 49ers have been kind of hanging their hat on the pressures. And look, I I don't think that numbers always paint the picture as far as whether what on especially on defense when players are playing the way that they should be playing or not. Bosa might not be having the sack numbers, but I still think he's extremely disruptive. Even though the stats might not be showing it on a stat sheet, but there was Kirk Cousins was looking like not even a top 10 quarterback, Jesse, a top 5 quarterback, the way that he was getting the ball out quick. It seemed like there was receivers running open all over the place. He was moving in the pocket. I don't even think he got sacked this game. I don't remember a sack that he had, maybe one. But look, Jesse, when Steve Wilkes was brought in as a defensive coordinator, you were extremely excited. I don't think I was as excited. And the reason why I wasn't excited is because I looked back at his defenses when he was a coach and they weren't good. Right. And I think people would play, okay, well, he hasn't had the type of talent and all of these types of things. But there were some mismanaged calls on the defensive side of the ball that were just atrocious. It's specifically the last play of the second half where they're down, but there's 16 seconds left. Minnesota has 0 timeouts, and you call all-out blitz with no safety help. Like, the whole point is to keep them out of making a big play, and you put them in a position to make a big play. And look, Ward made the jump that could have been an interception, and look, maybe we're not talking about it, but obviously it turned out to be not an interception, and there was nobody behind Ward to save that play. And you look at the first half, I remember tweeting, I was like, why are we calling so much zone? And they were just getting pieced up by it. The middle was wide open all the time. Now, do we blame that only on Wilkes? Obviously, the players have to perform and execute, but we don't know how good Wilkes is yet because the offense has been putting the defense in situations where they were playing with points on the board. So you play a different type of offense. These last 2 games, the defense has had to play to keep the team in the game. And last season, there was no issues with that, Jesse. This season, it's only been a couple games, and I don't think you could put the Cleveland Browns game on the defense. But this game, you definitely can. Over 450 yards of offense. That's insane. And against the team that, like you mentioned, don't have a lot of stars. Addison's a rookie, and they're making Addison look like he was another incarnation of Justin Jefferson. So it's definitely something to pay attention to. Obviously, this doesn't look like a team that is Super Bowl contention, but it's also week 7, Jesse. And we've seen this team struggle in the first half of the season in previous years and still figure it out after the bye week and look really, really good afterwards. I think the real question, Jesse, and I'll pass it to you, is how much of this is fixable? How much of this is just in the 49ers DNA that is just a weakness that Kyle Shanahan and the coaching staff have to hide because there's no overcoming it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I wish I knew the answer to it. I mean, I think the season will tell the truth over time. And you're right, I was excited about Wilkes, and a lot of that was talking to some of the Panthers guys that I trust. They really talked him up, talked about how he was a leader, and I saw it during training camp. He did a good job on the field. He He really was coaching in the moment a ton. But this defense ain't it. I mean, they play soft coverage behind a 4-man pass rush, and they just can't get home. And then when you decide to blitz, it's in the worst time, like right before the half. Now, I will say this, and I heard this a lot at halftime as well in Twitter Spaces, but I didn't see it as a cover zero. I actually saw Gibson back in coverage. Fred Warner dropped underneath. Gibson bit on a crossing route, and then they threw it over the top, and that was it. But it still wasn't a good plan. I mean, dropping 4 in coverage was not ideal. It's okay to blitz in that scenario if you send 5, but you don't go almost all out near cover 0 in that moment when you haven't been blitzing all day. Like, what is the point of that? That's when you should have 2 deep over the top.
Especially if you get the ball coming out of the first half, right?
Right.
That's
all
all
they had
important.
to do was tackle. That was it. If you get a tackle there, that's it. That's the end of the half. It's over.
Right. Situational awareness has always been a weakness that we've put on Kyle Shanahan. But I don't know if that play you could put on Shanahan. Obviously, he's the head coach, but he's not making the defensive calls. But that's a Ward issue. That's a play call issue. That's an execution issue. But ultimately, look, I know there's a lot you can see in the comment section. People are angry, but you don't win the Super Bowl week 7, right? There's a lot that we need to talk about. There's a lot that needs to be fixed. But if we talk, like when we were doing our beginning of the season, like what we thought the record was going to be, I don't think many people had it 5-2 going through week 7, right? I think people had it a little bit worse than 5-2.
I actually had us at 5-2. Yeah.
Perfect. So we're right.
The Cowboys and the Browns before the season started, and then
right. So it ended up being the Vikings instead of the Cowboys. So the sky isn't falling. You know what I mean? Like we were much worse last season, and we still we're that. But there is some things that need to be worked on, and there's still a lot of time to work on it. So for everybody that's like trying to jump off the deep end right now, we're not there yet. We're definitely not the best team in the NFC. I think the Eagles have that and the gap is pretty wide, I would say right now. But that doesn't mean we can't catch up because we still have a lot there that is left on the table. Let's just put it that way.
You said you don't win the Super Bowl in week 7, and I agree, but you can lose it. That might have been the bye week right there. These last 2 weeks might have been our bye week. We'll see how the season plays out. But I mean,
we do still play the Eagles.
Spoiler alert.
We do still play the Eagles.
That's true. But spoiler alert, I'm picking the Bengals to beat the 49ers this next week. Like I just am. That's the first time this season I'm going to pick against the 49ers. So, I mean, I don't feel confident in this team at all. And they couldn't stop a team without Jefferson. Now you got one of the best receiving cores in the league coming to town. Like, I don't know. And anybody who said Kirk Cousins wasn't a good quarterback, okay. Kirk Cousins did work today. Absolutely worked the 49ers up and down that field all day long. All right.